welcome, Gabriela, Anna, Teresa, to using our voices. Thank you so much for agreeing to talk about growing up bilingual. Why don't we start by just tell me a little bit about yourself? If you could introduce yourself and then tell me a little bit about yourself.
My name is Gabby Lyons. I was born in Panama City, Panama, but I grew up in Buffalo, New York. My whole working life has been connected to languages somehow. So yeah, it's a big part of my life and I love talking about it.
I can go next. My name is Anna Lyons. I grew up speaking Spanish and English. I was born here in Buffalo, New York. It's interesting that my mom says she doesn't know how we felt about learning Spanish because I can say that as a teenager, I hated it. Um, and then I realized how important it was. I definitely nerd out on linguistics and anything language.
Thank you, Anna. Teresa.
My name is Teresa Lyons. Yeah, I was born here in Buffalo and grew up in Buffalo. I would say the same thing. I kind of rebelled against my mom, like in terms of her trying to teach me Spanish. I really hated it. But as I've grown up, I've really come to love it.
Great. Thank you, Teresa. Now, you spent a year in Argentina. I'm not sure at what ages you were when you did that. If have I got that correct? That um, yeah. So how was that?
I wish I could remember.
How old were you, Teresa?
I think I was two.
Oh, yeah, you were really young.
But I think I don't know. I don't know because I don't remember, but maybe my sisters can help me remember. But I think I only spoke Spanish for the first few years of my life. Because of Argentina and because I constantly spent time just with my mom. So when I went into grade school, I barely spoke English, and there'd be moments where my sister's friends would come over and they would try to speak to me, and I'd try to talk to them, like speak to them back, but in English. But then there would be words where I'd be like, I'd have to ask either Anita or Gabby, like, how do you say this in English? And there's just moments like that. So I think maybe Argentina was played a factor in that,
Mhm.
perhaps.
I loved my experience in Argentina, and I think it played a big role in like that teenage period of my life because like my sisters say that that was like very challenging for them, and I think because I was 14 when we went, um like I like my lifestyle in Argentina was so different from what I experienced in Buffalo. I had a lot more freedom. I was allowed to do I was very independent. I did a lot of things on my own. And I had like my whole group of friends, and it was like I was just exposed to so many things, and I was like, this is really cool. And like I'm able to access this because I speak Spanish. And like I felt, and it was nice too because I feel like when I was in Argentina, once I started speaking, like, and initially like my accent wasn't Argentinian, but like as the time went on, like I was able to like my Spanish definitely shifted, and like I could do the accent. I was using the vocabulary. And then a lot of people like wouldn't think, never wouldn't even ask me where I was from. Like they just assumed I was from Corrientes. And then I felt like I feel like at that time I was like, okay, so like I'm Panamanian, but I'm here in Argentina, and like people assume I'm Argentinian, and it's like, oh, well, like I can be part of like ultimately I'm Latin American. Like I'm part of this much bigger thing than just, Panama and Argentina. Like I've had so many different influences in my life, and I really do feel like connected to all these different places, even if I've never been to them, because I listen to the music and I eat the food. And now I've had this experience in Argentina, and I was just like, this is so much bigger. And so like I never, once I came back to the US, like I almost felt like I'm really proud to be who I am. Like I'm like, and like if anybody ever said anything snide or whatever, not I don't really think people did, but I was always like, I mean, I have access to this whole world that is so cool, and it's amazing, and I want to be able to share that with other people. And like I know that for me to keep that connection alive, I have to make sure that I continue to speak and use Spanish as much as I can so that I don't lose it. And I like when I go back, I can be welcomed and like just blend in with the community and not have any issues. So yeah, that I never in my head as a teenager never thought like, oh no, I don't want to speak Spanish or this isn't for me.
Mhm. Yeah, I would say Argentina had a similar effect on me. I was 10 when we went, and I remember at first the school that I went to, it was an all girls Catholic school, and they were really excited that there was an American there, and they just like completely like crowded me, like immediately surrounded me and wanted to know like everything. And some girls were like disappointed that I spoke Spanish. They were like, "Oh, she's not like a true American like what we thought." And then I was able to like weed through and like find my actual like core friends, and they became like they were these three girls, and we became a group of four. And even now I'm able to go visit and see them. And like I've gone back now uh 3 times, I believe, and like we've been able to see each other change throughout the years. And I remember it was an amazing year for me too. Like I was able to see this other side of Latin America that I'd only seen through media, which was more limited than today. Today you can see anything through like TikTok and Instagram, but it was so incredible. And when I came back to Buffalo, I felt lost. Like all of my friends that I had grown up with here from school, they were all like, "Oh, you're different now." And I felt like so sad and lost, and it was short-lived. It didn't last a long time, but I wouldn't give it back for anything. Like it was amazing. And taking all of my classes in Spanish, um learning about the history of Argentina, like it was just something that I think changed us, like all of us, changed the rest of our lives. Um, and just felt really special. Like every time I've gone back, it just feels like so nostalgic, and not much has changed about the city that we went to, too. So it just like transports me back to when I was 10 years old there. Before I was so self-conscious as a teenager. Like it just like really immersed myself in it.
You are a traveling family. So I think we really need to talk about the kind of traveling that you have done and how possibly you can tell me being bilingual, multilingual has influenced your traveling, how traveling has influenced you.
I went to Mexico for the first time this year by myself, and or with two other friends, but they didn't speak the language. So it was definitely very nerve-wracking at first because I was like, oh, like I don't know if I'll be able to do it, but because I just didn't have enough confidence in myself with Spanish. But as soon as I like landed, I was like, I felt like I was at home. Like I could just immerse myself so easily. And I love Mexicans. They're just like so welcoming, and it just was such an inviting environment. And I don't know, I think I remember just thinking the whole time like how grateful I was for my mom and dad that pushed us like to speak the language, and that now I was able to do things like this, like go to Mexico and have the time of my life, and also share that with my friends, because I was the interpreter the whole time, but I was really happy that they were able to see Mexico kind of in my, I don't know if that makes sense, but like in my eyes, I guess. But yeah, it was like my one friend's first time outside of the US, and it just was amazing. And I was so happy that I was able to like share that with someone that I value so much. So
Yeah, I'll say that the traveling aspect, like of my mom and dad just going for it, taking us to Argentina for a year, has shaped how I viewed travel and was really one of the reasons why I didn't really think so much before I overthought going to Brazil for a year. It just felt something that I kind of had to do. Um, like the opportunity was there. I really wanted to learn Portuguese. Gabby had just done a year in France, so I thought, okay, now's the time to do that. And traveling for me is something that I realize there's a lot of privilege attached to it too. It's like really amazing and really I feel really privileged that we've been able to have such access to travel. Um, and because we know Spanish and now Portuguese for me, I can access so many places in a different way that someone who doesn't speak the language can't. And most places that I've traveled to, I'm able to talk with everyone, which is one of my favorite parts of traveling. But for the first time, I think Teresa and I don't know, I can speak for myself. I experienced culture shock when I went to Turkey last summer, and we were in a in Istanbul, the capital city, and a lot of people speak English, but also a lot of people don't speak English too. And
no,
it
not
was
not a lot. There was like two people out of like the 100 people we would meet that day.
yeah, honestly, not a lot of people spoke English, and so it was just like aside from the cultural factor, the language factor there too was just it was hard. Like we've had extensive experience traveling, and that was really jarring for me when we first got there. To something that was really moving was the first night we heard the call to prayer, and that just like it echoed throughout the whole city, and I was just like moved to tears. Like it was just incredible. And I thought about too how amazing it would be if I could understand that as well. Um, so that's another reason I'd like to learn Arabic and or Turkish eventually, because I feel like it just opens doors. Like I listened to a podcast today about linguistics and how the languages you speak shape your worldview. And if you only speak one language, you're missing like some key things. Like Gabby said, things can be translated. You can read lyrics of songs, but some words and phrases just don't translate.
Yeah, I feel the same as my sisters. It's just been amazing to be able to go to all these different places and connect. And a lot of my experience has been when I travel has been in places where I already speak the language, which has been nice. And then I'm always like, why do people feel like intimidated by travel? Like it's fine. And then I'm like, well, I actually only go to places where I speak the language. So yeah, obviously it's not going to be as challenging. But I last summer I went to Greece for my friend's wedding, and I remember feeling a little like nervous before I went, even though I've traveled pretty extensively. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't speak any Greek. Like, what am I gonna do? And then I was like, oh, people do this all the time. Like, this isn't unusual. And but once I was there, like it was so interesting to see how like my brain is, I feel like, so primed to like I see like looking at the alphabet and like how things were written and like listening to people talk, like I'm so like in tune with like picking out patterns and being like, okay, so they're saying this sound or word over and over again based on the context, based on who they're talking to. I'm thinking that it must mean this, and then I would like look it up and be like, oh cool, it does mean that. And so like it's just it's just cool. Like I love, like I mentioned, I love anything like language related. So it's really like fun to have those opportunities to just kind of expand your linguistic abilities.
Yeah, it was so cool. I remember like being on the metro reading the signs in the Greek alphabet and just hearing the way they were pronouncing the stations and then realizing, oh, okay, so this letter is this. Like, I think the key to learning a language at first is learning is it the morphemes or like how you say certain letters or like combination of letters, or like I was looking at like the theta symbol and then listening to them say words with that, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that from linguistics. It was so cool.
It's like a game in a way. It was really fun. And there'd be times where we would be all together and uh we would try to speak a little bit of Greek, and then people would be like, "Are you guys Greek?" And then it happened to us in Turkey where we tried to speak some Turkish. We'd be like, "Merhaba," and everybody would be like, "Are you Turkish?" So it's like really cool, and that aspect of it is, I don't know, it was really interesting and I loved it.
It's cool feeling too, like we can kind of blend in many places. In many places people have thought that I'm from there.
Mhm.
Um, so that's also an interesting aspect. But yeah, I remember hearing like how they said a certain station, which in English it's syntagma, like a T, but they would say syntagma, and I'm like, okay, so the T is pronounced as a D.
Yeah, you right from the beginning were given that enrichment of being able to hear sounds that those of us who are monolingual have to work a lot harder, work a lot harder at, might not necessarily even ever hear. So yeah, just hearing you talk about that is absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much.